Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into this completely fascinating collision between individual athletic greatness and a multi-billion-dollar international sports strategy. We're going to see exactly how a single player's summer schedule over in Europe directly connects to the NBA's massive, aggressive push to conquer a brand new continent. It's this brilliant, complex mix of sports, money, and huge global ambition.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The Spurs invade Europe. 2. Clash of the Titans. 3. A history in Paris. And finally, 4. The NBA Europe expansion plan.
Starting off with Section 1, the Spurs invade Europe.
Now, to really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what we're talking about, we have to start with this absolutely massive number, $250 million. Back in July 2026, Victor Wembanyama signed this jaw-dropping 5-year contract extension with the San Antonio Spurs. And this incredible player economy, it totally sets the stage. Because a superstar like Wemby, he isn't just an athlete anymore, you know? He is literally an international franchise all on his own, and the Spurs are leveraging that immense value on a truly global scale.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this all builds, because it's so carefully orchestrated. We start with that massive financial commitment in July 2026. Then, boom, a huge international warm-up game in August. Just a few months later, in January 2027, the Spurs are bringing actual NBA regular season games to Europe. And the whole thing culminates in the targeted launch of NBA Europe in October 2027. It's just a brilliant, escalating crescendo of basketball hype.
Let's zoom in on that January 2027 moment for a second. The Spurs are taking their show overseas for 2 real regular season games against the New Orleans Pelicans. On January 14th, they play in Paris. But then, just days later, they head over to England. And the massive takeaway here is that this Manchester matchup marks the first ever NBA regular season game played in that city. Like Spurs CEO R.C. Buford noted, this is really all about expanding the footprint and connecting with fans through these massive global experiences.
Moving right along to Section 2, Clash of the Titans.
Picture this, August 20th, 2026, the Belgrade Arena. We get this absolutely incredible matchup. Over in one corner, you've got Victor Wembanyama stepping onto the court as the NBA's reigning Defensive Player of the Year. And in the other corner, Nikola Jokic, the Serbian home captain and multi-time MVP. France versus Serbia. Seeing these two absolute titans of the modern game sharing a court on that side of the Atlantic is incredibly rare, and the hype is off the charts.
And let me tell you, the local market completely understands how rare this is. The first batch of tickets, sold out instantly. Gone. A second batch went on sale ranging all the way up to 35,000 dinars. To put that into perspective, that price tag for a front row seat is a really serious sum for the local economy. It just goes to show you the undeniable, absolute fever-pitch demand for elite NBA talent in Europe right now.
But here is the crazy juxtaposition of this entire event. On paper, this is literally just a warm-up game. It's sandwiched right between qualifying windows for the 2027 World Cup. Both coaches, Frederic Fathou for France and Dusan Olimpejevic for Serbia, have way bigger stakes waiting for them just 8 days later in actual qualifiers. So it's highly likely both benches treat this as a practice run. We're probably talking very short minutes for Wemby and Jokic and long looks at the bottom of the rotation. But you know what? It doesn't matter. The arena will be packed to the rafters regardless. The sheer star power totally transcends the actual stakes of the game itself.
Which brings us to Section 3, a history in Paris. And this brilliantly illustrates just how far the NBA's global strategy has evolved. Just look at this comparison. On the left, you've got the 1997 McDonald's Championship in Paris, featuring Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls playing international club teams. On the right, the upcoming 2027 Paris game. We have shifted from a fun preseason exhibition tournament back in the 90s to highly competitive regular season games featuring an international player as the absolute main draw in 2027. The game has totally globalized. But honestly, even back in 1997, the blueprint for all this international hype was already there. The Bulls won that tournament, Michael Jordan took home the MVP, and they beat the host team, PSG Racing, 89-82 before crushing Olympiacos. But here is the astounding part. Over 1,000 journalists from 54 countries showed up to cover that event. That was actually more press than the previous NBA Finals. The hunger for NBA basketball in Europe has always been massive. The league is just finally building the permanent infrastructure to fully capture it.
Let's look at that infrastructure in Section 4, the NBA Europe expansion plan.
To really understand why the NBA is making this massive push right now, you just have to look at the current roster. Right now, roughly 15% of all NBA players are European. The talent pipeline over there isn't just a trickle anymore, It's a fundamental pillar of the league. And that huge talent pool perfectly justifies a permanent, hyper-aggressive business strategy across the Atlantic.
So let's break down the actual nuts and bolts of this standalone league. The NBA is very much on schedule to launch this thing in October 2027. The structure? They're looking at a 16-team league. 12 of those will be permanent franchise spots, and the remaining 4 spots will be up for grabs through a qualification process for European clubs. Make no mistake, this is the single most ambitious international expansion in the history of the league.
So the crucial point is, how does the NBA handle the current king of the hill over there, the EuroLeague? The EuroLeague already anchors the continent with these legacy powerhouses like Real Madrid and Barcelona. Well, check out this quote from Commissioner Adam Silver. He said, "It's our hope that we can find a way to integrate these operations with the EuroLeague, but we will move forward either way." Now, that is a firm, aggressive posture. They'd prefer a partnership, sure, but they are absolutely not afraid to build a rival organization from the ground up if negotiations fail.
And the NBA already knows exactly where they want to plant their flags. Final bids for these permanent franchises are actually due by the end of June, and they expect to award them as soon as autumn. We are talking about massive, prime European markets firmly in the conversation right now. Cities like Paris, London, Berlin, and Manchester.
But getting a seat at this brand new table, it's going to require some astronomical wealth. According to reports, EuroLeague clubs wanting to transition over or new ownership groups looking to buy in, they would need to pony up anywhere between $500 million and $1 billion for a permanent NBA Europe franchise. We are talking about top-tier, American-style global sports valuations being instantly injected right into the European market.
And the business ties here are getting incredibly deep. One major unresolved question Silver highlighted recently is whether current NBA players will actually be allowed to invest in these new NBA Europe teams. This is something actively being hashed out with the Players Association right now. Just imagine that. Imagine a current NBA superstar holding an ownership stake in the very London or Paris team they might play an exhibition game against. The lines between player, owner, and global ambassador are blurring so rapidly. We've really come a long way, haven't we? We've gone from Michael Jordan wowing the crowds in a 1997 exhibition to billion-dollar franchise fees and a fully operational European league launching in 2027. The game has changed entirely. So I want to leave you with this to ponder. With player contracts and franchise fees literally hitting the billions, and the talent pool being more international than it has ever been, is Europe truly the NBA's ultimate frontier? Or is this just the first step in creating a fully global, worldwide league? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.